gave was, my mouse is made out of plastic. And then Einstein comes along and says, no, your mouse is made out of atoms. That's the difference.
16,384,
which
32,768.
I did manage to get him to concede a few points, and then we got, interestingly enough,
72,
stuck on this thing to do with density buoyancy and his stupid bloody experiment with an egg and a glass. And he kept coming back to like, how he could add salt to the glass and the egg would rise up. And I was like, okay, brilliant. So what's your understanding of that? And he's like, well, my independent variable was that I adjusted the density of the water, and therefore it caused more pressure on the egg. And I said, great, pressure is a force, do you agree? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, great, we call it buoyancy. And he went, no, that's not it at all. That's what we call it. You can deny that, but that's what we call it.
Let's do some pi. 3.14
So yeah, that was a fun
159265358979323.
But yes, level. This is the thing between Riley and Bev. I think I need to get over this definition of level thing with them, because they are not going to concede that level in any way, shape or form could potentially be used to describe a line that isn't absolutely dead straight.
Love never gives up, never fails, is always hopeful.
There's nothing that you can really do about that. Riley, as per usual, latches onto a single definition, as do most of them. They just want to play a game. Right the hand gets caught up on definition.
I've been out for a month.
Yeah.
Well, there's a solution. But it depends on how you can portray it.
20.
But like I made this meme of a bookshelf, but you can describe something like a bookshelf. Like in construction, when you're constructing something like a bookshelf,
like a
there's distinctions between whether it's level, whether it's flat. Like something can be flat, obviously, and not be level, because it can be slanted. And something can be level and not be flat.
That's how wet I am.
So you mean you can if you can describe the same thing as being flat
in Germany,
and it's not level,
and found people who
you know what I mean, like a slanted bookshelf or something like that, or a slanted shelf in any kind of sense.
Literally grew the size of their brain.
So here's telephone pole level. So here's an interesting one. Take a look in the chat, guys. I'll post a link.
Now we're getting into the
big
boy
that image. It talks about plane and geodetic survey, and they've come up with an interesting thing where he quoted the third sentence in the second paragraph. Survey works up to 100 square miles are treated as plane, and beyond that are treated as geodetic. So their argument was that level for 100 square miles is flat on that basis.
Shout out to the Discord on YouTube.
9,100.
Oh, are you live, Jeb?
Yep, I've just put it live for the first time ever.
Awesome.
90.
Wait,
where's my royalties, Jim? I'm on your stream now.
Hey, Wardy.
That kills it. I'm done.
Hey, Wardy, there's no point arguing with kindergartners about calculus.
Watching. FEFlyers.com.
Just because they don't understand that 66.7 feet is inconsequential over a distance of 10 miles doesn't mean that the world stopped.
Peter, who is crushing.
Yeah, the problem that I had was kind of, and we came back to examples like the pyramids and the Suez Canal, which are deemed to be flat and level, and the argument seems to be that because water can run up and water always finds
here's a playground.
Therefore, water is flat on the flat Earth. I struggled trying to define the difference between flat and level in a way that they could understand over that 100-mile distance of the Suez Canal. And we did have much discussion about Soundly's findings of the bridge. The engineers that built the bridge would obviously describe that bridge as being level and flat all the way along as part of the construction effort that they had. And therefore, it was observably not so when we took pictures of it, obviously, and when Jesse drove over it with his LiDAR. And of course, the argument then came to, well, you can't trust LiDAR, and it's based, a presupposed R, and the math that figures out the coordinates basically, and Bislin basically made the model fit essentially the pictures. And I was like, well, you'd have to some accept that GPS and lidar works. It's just a fact of life. How it works, fine, we can debate that, but it does work, and it does give us absolute positions in 3 dimensions. And if you get a raw blob of data over 20 miles and it's showing a curve, then you're definitely going around a curve, right? Because why wouldn't you be?
April 2002,
and there seems to be this sticking point that they don't trust anything that you can detect, see, or in any that is kind of like reasonable measure. But they want to somehow propose these experiments that will prove either way that the Earth is either flat or round. That is a commendable effort. Let's do that. Let's propose an experiment that both globalists and flat earthers can all unanimously agree whether the Earth is round or flat. So what do you propose? And then, of course, it got onto this debate about bloody terms, which is the thing that really gripes me about all this is... And it's somewhat annoying from an intellectual honesty point of view, is that you can't hold them to that and say, no, propose me the experiment, give me the definition of what it is that you would suggest would accurately prove either way. And sorry, I'm monologuing at this point, I'm very aware of that. If anyone wants to cut in, feel free. But
I got something that would
How dare you?
I got something that would prove it definitively.
Go for it.
Unlikely.
So it's been going on for a while.
Go for it.
You know my
It's just
straight lines.
kept on going. And eventually, I was.
Everyone knows
invited
my straight
to
lines.
Oh, not this
decipher-
again.
It won't work. They
Jeremy.
told you
Well,
it
marks that she
No, it
gave
won't.
her first
Because you
born
can't
was
make a
son,
straight line that
Prince Marcus
straight.
Manuel, to show that Prince
You
Marcus
don't have the
Manuel
tools.
was actually the king of
Townley, we've
England.
been to, we've
And the
sent
king of
men
the
to the
United
moon and we
Kingdom
can't
broke
draw a
Rhode
straight
Island.
line.
And then,
Are you serious?
Queen Victoria actually wrote that in a letter.
Again,
on 17th
tell us
March
how you're going to draw a
1850.
straight line
17th March is
24
Patrick's
miles
Day.
long.
So that's
It needs to be 1 mile long.
And
What
then
color
that
crayon
letter
are
was
you gonna use
given to
for-
me 3 times.
Purple.
And it was blank.
No,
You couldn't
pink,
see it.
pink.
And then I got someone to do a high-level
I
scan.
don't know.
And we did it in blue.
at least we got the
It was a
important
treasure
questions
map.
out of the way.
What
And
color do you
as
want?
a treasure map, it showed a
Oh, I wanna
white
use,
thumbprint.
I want to use the
And
rainbow.
in the
You wanna
blue,
have a
it showed
Black,
writing.
we'll do
And
a
that
black
writing
wall
was
and then we'll use a
familiar
black
French,
crayon.
which Queen Victoria
Whoa,
wrote in.
whoa,
And
whoa.
it said
Right,
a symbol
you
and
put the
claimant.
I just,
And then
it's not
signed
black
it,
crayons
I
matter.
don't
That
Yeah,
crayon
we-
map.
Gothic-
See, you
Gothic
guys always
Queen,
take it to these
Hanover.
Nazi
Because she was,
extremes.
Queen Victoria was married to
Jeremy,
King George V of Hanover.
what about your compound theory? What about your
She was never
compound that
actually
you want to
married to
develop?
Albert.
My Institute
No,
for
no,
Excellence.
no, no, no,
Albert
no.
was
Don't be
the
going
main-
Nazi on it because you're the one that started this first.
On
My
Leap Day
Institute for
2012, I was given the sword of the Duke of Saxon Coburg and Gotha,
That one, yeah.
Yeah. It's an
which
Institute
is
for
the true sword
Excellence.
of the King of England.
It's
Queen
not
doesn't have
Nazi.
it.
All he wants to do is
We
get
own
the
it.
smartest, brightest people and breed them. I mean,
Right? And we also own the Caduceus,
Everything's
trade as the
optional.
monarch of the UK.
So getting back on point,
So
if we
Queen
can't
Elizabeth
take
can't-
pictures
can't trade as
of
a monarch,
flat
because we
or
own the
curve,
Caduceus.
and we can't use
So
GPS
what,
for flat or
Eleanor
curve,
of
how can we
Aquitaine
measure
through the Holy
flat
Grail
or curve over a
teachings
long
and-
distance?
and myths
You
of
can draw
nature,
1 mile,
was
a
actually
bunch of 1
correct.
mile straight lines on a wall
Holy Grail.
with water under it, and then we'll
Right.
be able to take a tape measure
And,
out at the end and see the 8
It turned out
inches.
to be me, and my name Gregory Hallett is an anagram of Holy Grail.
There's
Holy
multiple
Grail,
methods
the
of
Grail
drawing
was
straight lines. You use a
Wow.
whole bunch of them.
G-
You could have 4, 5, 6
Grail
lines
was
right on top of each other, a few inches above each other.
G-R-A-E-L from Charlemagne to Joan of Arc,
so what?
which is
So what's the
800
difference in
to
that and
1431.
like
So it
just
still
using
survives
a
as the longest
theodolite
spelling of Grail
a mile?
until
That's not a
2031.
measurement. You're just making an
So,
observation with
Gregory
that.
Hallett
Sure,
is
that
anagram
is by
of
definition a
Holy
measurement.
Grail, R-E-G-T-T.
How does this work? How does this
Well,
work?
different.
Stands for Register
You draw a
of the
line
Two
that's 1 mile
Jesuses.
long.
I've
Then
been
how do you
just
determine
trying
whether
to
or not
raise
it's curved?
You have
some
water
funds
on it.
for the documents.
Well, no,
because
you're gonna
actually
have
documents are
multiple
really
methods just in
expensive
case
to
you
do
get one
properly.
line that deviates.
So,
maybe
I'm
we can
raising
get 5, 6 methods of
2,700
drawing straight
pounds,
lines, and
and,
one of them's not good. We'll be able to judge it by the other
pretty much got
straight
there in
line.
under 24
I'm about
hours.
to
And then
say,
we'll have
in
water.
theory,
You know, probably 12
in
hours.
theory,
I'm sort
if
of
you
about
could
2 grand.
ensure
Great.
straight lines, that'd
And
be
the-
a great
the current
experiment.
Pope
I think the
Francis, he had the
problem
title
is
Vicar of
methodology.
Christ.
Like, how are you
And
going to
when
ensure your
he
line?
started to
Pivots.
receive my
One
documents,
method is
he
pivots and joints.
renounced
We got a
his title Vicar of
60-page
Christ.
PDF on how to draw the straight line. Another
And
method
Christ
Pocho
is
brought to the
automatically the
table
King
with
of England. So that was another of his acknowledgements. that I
strings
was
and nails.
the
There's another
King of
method
England.
with a laser beam and a
That
vacuum.
means that I own everything the Vatican does.
I mean, I don't know how many more methods. I'm sure there's probably a few more.
So I ended up
Laser beam
in
and
the
a
UK
vacuum.
and
Okay.
also being chosen
Yeah,
to
let's do that,
represent the
like
end
Lego
times.
did.
And
I
then
was about to say,
also
that's already been
represented
done.
the New Age.
Yeah, we'll
And that
I mean,
was
put the
also
water
place
under it,
that
and then
I
let's see if the
toppled
water
King
curves.
Juan Carlos of Spain from.
That's all they need to do next.
At the same time,
It's already been done, but it hasn't been done because
It absolutely has been done.
Okay, where's the
because
bench?
they had to actually prop up the end because everything's level. But the chamber is straight, so they had to make up the difference between level and straight at the end of it.
Regarding
so then let's see the bendy
registering the
water that's
documents,
underneath
presenting the documents, how long this might take.
Counterpoint, right? We all agree, whatever model we subscribe
when's
to,
it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And
water
that's just like a
conforms
way
to the
of
shape
not looking for the signs. And the Bible says
essentially.
look for the signs, to see the signs. So the
So
signs
if the
now
Earth is
are that
flat,
we've had to
water's
move
flat. If the Earth
the
is
legal
round,
documents
water's
from our
round.
website
We all unanimously
to
agree on
Amazon
that.
S3.
So if
because
we've
we're
got
getting
a
100,000
straight
downloads
line
a day
that's 1
on the
mile long
documents.
with water
So what
underneath
the beauty
it,
of
and that
was,
line
I'd seen
matches
them
the
to
water,
POTUS,
what are we going to
then
prove from
President
that?
Donald John Trump, and
It's going
I
to
see
prove
them
that the
to
water's
Queen.
not curving.
No,
Supposed
he's
to
not
get
talking
them
about making a level
a few days
line.
after
He's talking about
Queen,
making
and
it
he'll bring
straight.
up
The
Queen,
first
contact
segment
Queen
you would
through,
the first segment you would start level. You would make the
And
first
so this is
segment of the
true.
level, and then from there on out, you
Is
wouldn't
there
worry
any bit of
about
it you
level
want to
anymore.
deny?
You only worry
And
about
she's just
straight.
be tight-lipped, she couldn't deny anything.
You're
So
saying
she
make
went
the
into
line
hiding
dead
and
straight,
Trump
regardless
took
of
over, kind of
the
took
shape
over
of
the
the
British
water
Empire
underneath.
until I moved in.
Yes,
You know,
you
there
make the
has
first
been
segment of the line.
enormous amount of
You make it be level.
illegitimacy
Okay.
You
from
don't want just crazy
premature
nutty ass
like her
lines.
9 children were all
So
illegitimate.
second problem. How do we take a picture that we can trust of our dead straight line? Because, like Ben's,
George V was illegitimate. Queen Elizabeth is illegitimate. Prince
You
Charles
don't need to take a
was
picture
born
of it. You
Royal
need to
Run.
just
He
put a
was
tape measure at the end of it and see if it dropped 8 inches or not.
Born a child sex slave for World
See,
War
why
I.
don't you instead try and figure
Fraudulent
out how
for their
much refraction
illegitimacy.
actually
Prince
comes into play and when you can
Andrew is the son of Lord Porchester, who was
You're
in the
saying no straight
triumvirate,
lines
the
and
heroin
this whole
trafficking
thing shit.
triumvirate.
So
Yeah,
you sit here
The
talking about
heroin
it forever.
trafficking
Yeah,
triumvirate
but you
was
can't actually draw a
Prince
straight
Philip,
line that
Lord
far,
Lumabatten,
like accurately.
Well, that's like your opinion,
Lord
man.
Porchester and Lord Plunkett. And they were trafficking
Okay, sure.
heroin.
You're telling me-
My opinion.
you're telling me-
I'll wait for the method. I mean, I'll wait
Elizabeth
for you
was
to tell
the
me how it
heroin
works.
trafficking mole,
I just
and she would have
they did one 2
children
miles
with the
long at
other,
LIGO, so we know we can do that.
That was a laser
They're-
beam, dude.
people in the
That was a laser
triumvirate
beam. It was 4
to
kilometers.
keep her quiet.
Yeah, that was one
What
of the
you've actually
methods,
got
laser
in
beam and a
the
vacuum tube.
Illegitimate royal family.
Okay, so
we've
do
got
it.
now is a heroin trafficking.
I'm just saying,
unit
you're
with
saying
a whole lot of illegitimate children running around.
No, the laser beam and vacuum tube is possible, but it's prohibitively expensive.
Whatsoever, it's just
Yeah,
a
I'm
mafia.
saying it's not possible for you to draw a straight line to the tolerances that are necessary on a wall
It's just
for a
horrible. The
mile.
British
I
will
don't
make
think
come
you
up to
can
me
do
and
that.
say, we're
No,
absolutely
definitely
sick
not. I personally
of
can't do that. No,
transporting the
we
Queen's
have to come
heroin
together
around.
as
That's
humanity,
all we
like
do.
sending people to the moon. Next thing you know, we're drawing a
No,
straight
just
line.
other
Crazy.
than I think the next step is we've got to somehow.
I'm just trying to think of the cost of
Get to
digging the
Buckingham
trench and
Palace.
then digging
So we
digging
can
the wall that you
prove
want to
all
put
this
this
up
on. Just the
and,
cost of the materials alone would be
get in the right
ridiculous.
rooms.
It just seems
Yeah.
straight line.
Hey,
I'm
Warren,
not living there. It's just
side
been
note,
renovated for me,
um,
so I can just
Bill
drive through my
Lincoln built
carriage
his
and
model,
wave and everything's painted.
before I
and the
took my
palace is all done up.
photograph from the 15th floor.
I
So
should
I
say,
actually
we
went to his
couldn't make
model to
yesterday.
try and figure
Royal
out
Security came
what
around
it
and
would
had a
look
chat
like
for 3 hours.
before I took the
At your house.
photograph.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
My
interesting
ancestor,
because
Queen
one
Anne
of the
Boleyn,
points
was a
that
falconer, and she
Riley
had a
raised
Merlin
with me earlier
falcon,
was
right?
that
And we're standing
it was
down
either
there,
the model
Royal
was
Security
made
and
to
John
fit
and
the
me having a
photo,
chat
or
there.
the photo
And then
was
the Merlin Falcon is right
overlaid
there,
on the
7
modeling
to 8
situation
meters from
way
where
that
I'm
it looked
sitting
like
now.
it
The
accurately
Merlin
fit.
was sitting in the
Basically,
tree
one of them
watching
was
us,
built to
Merlin
represent
Falcon,
the other,
and then
was his
after about an
argument.
hour
And I
it
said,
flew
I
off.
thought
I mean,
that the model was
that's
based on raw
not
data.
divine
It wasn't
providence.
manipulated in any way, so it was what it was. And the photo was an
And it
observation,
flew into
which
the
wasn't
house
manipulated in any way. It
exactly
was
a day after.
Yeah, his first model was
down,
just
right?
a
And that
sphere
that
with
was lit by,
24-mile long,
Barack Obama with Michelle
bridge,
Obama
basically,
watching.
with nothing
They
else on it.
destroyed.
And he
So
based
also
that
making William
on my
abdicate,
original
also making
photographs,
Charles
which were from
abdicate,
like
and
ground
also
level.
making Elizabeth abdicate.
And
also,
then he
made
started trying to put. He
Prince
started. He
Andrew
tried
abdicate. Yeah, we
like,
see all,
to
all
actually
these
go. He
markers,
went to, I
like
think he went
Diana
to
was
Google
born
Earth and actually
77 days
figured out
before,
where all
so
the
77
different utility huts
days
were, and then
after
he put all those
Diana,
in there and the hunts and
the
stuff like
Hamashiach's
that.
born.
That came
He's
out.
like the king
Once
of
he
Israel,
had that model,
which is
I was
me.
like, what would it look like
Brexit
if I
stands
went
for
up
British
in
Royal
this building?
Exit.
Like, let me go look at that.
Yes.
I looked at it and
Yeah.
I'm like, wow,
And
that's
Corona
like really
stands
dramatic. I
for
wonder if it
we
actually
crowned
looks like
him.
that. If it actually looks like that,
And-
that'll be
and
amazing.
when,
And then we went there and it looked
Diana
exactly like
was 33
Can you
days.
just go there? Can you just go there
pregnant
every day of the year and
with
see that?
Prince
Not
William.
all.
Queen Elizabeth II.
As long as the
came to New
atmosphere is
Zealand
clear
and
enough, as long as there's no
abdicated.
rain or fog or anything.
How did she
If you can
do that?
see to the end of the bridge, though,
Well, she was
you'll see
resisting
it.
abdicating
You'll
to
see it
me,
look
so
like
she
that
was
every
shot
time.
at, and then
So
she
you don't
was given a
even see
severe
the end
case
of the
of
bridge.
diarrhea.
I mean,
Yeah, it basically looks exactly the same every time. I mean, obviously there's atmospherics involved that change it, but I mean it's curved every time. Yeah.
Did you account for perspective?
Yes, any photograph counts for perspective.
Yeah.
Jeremy, why don't you go to like a large river and put a laser across it? You pretty much do the same thing. It's a straight line of a long distance. You can go to the other side of a long ocean or a massive lake and you can see that it's not even. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really need to go and build a wall that's like underground that's a mile long. You just use a laser. I'm sure lasers go further than a mile.
It's like a gentle hate.
Well, they've done laser tests and they say refraction. They say it looks flat as refraction.
Not those just people trying to deny reality. The laser straight. Sometimes it probably I don't know. I'd highly doubt.
This is so fucking depressing. I can't be a
I don't know. I've just laser experiments across the rivers and that. I don't think it's bending upwards because of the fact. I think it's because of the curvature.
Things making sense.
You know, you'd have different results in different days, wouldn't you? So you could do it every day for a week. And, you know, if it does, you know, due to refraction, because some days will be foggier than others, so then you know it's not refraction. That'd be one way to stop it from being refraction.
I mean, lasers are affected by the atmosphere the same way any visible light is.
You're just getting an average at that point. Nothing's definitive like the lines are.
But if you can, at least you can detect that it is affecting it. But is it going to affect it to the point where it messes with where you still couldn't use the laser accurately to prove the curvature of? Because I'm pretty sure.
Lasers are always indeterminate because they are so variable.
But it's still going to be satisfactory, isn't it? I mean, it might be off slightly, but it's not going to be off that much. It would disprove it being. Do you get what I'm saying?
I don't know if there's anything satisfactory. I mean, Jesse did a GPS profile of the bridge. I don't know what else. I mean, I don't know. It's clear cut. I don't know what else people can do. Yeah.
It's not clear cut though. If it was clear cut, then there wouldn't be no more flat earthers left.
No,
Jeremy.
Explain me something, Jeremy. It is clear cut, and the reason there are flat earthers left is because they're suffering some type of mental delusion, man. I mean, I'm not trying to be an asshole when I say that. It's just.
Did he do the water also under the bridge?
No. Why would he do that?
Well, obviously the bridge has contours and curve to it, right? But does the water?
The GPS tells you that the bridge is perfectly level. So, I mean, I'm not sure why you would need to do the water survey.
Or I think he was a Bislin model their levels.
What's that?
I think he was talking about Bislin modeling the water level.
Correct.
Modeling the water level.
Yeah, essentially, he's trying to say that waves or the height of the water could have given it, which makes no sense. Because Bislin just put in the average water level and then in the model does for that time of the year.
This model's just a wireframe, isn't it? I don't think there is any water.
Okay, yeah, sure enough. I'll have to go look at it again.
I'd be satisfied with the laser. That'd pretty much do me enough. I wouldn't have to go that far. Even if it's refracted a bit, I wouldn't go, oh, just because it's refracting a little bit, it's all false. It's still, you know, it's just.
But, I mean, there's more than just the issue of refraction on a laser. You need a collimator. You need a collimator to prevent the beam divergence from making the laser unusably huge.
Yeah, so George did a big experiment on this. It took the Rainy Lake experiment, and it took him all sorts of controls to try and get it to work that far.
Was that the experiment where it started? His hypothesis was, why does the lake appear to be so flat? Or something like that? That was his hypothesis for that?
I don't remember him actually forming a formal hypothesis. It's more about observation.
Oh, maybe it was something else.
Walter Bislin also did the Rainy Lake experiment on his site. He's got pretty much everything we've done. Mom.
So, Stanley, when you took the picture out of the window 15 stories up in the Marriott, that was just on one day you took that picture? You have other pictures on different days of the same bridge?
Man, it was like a 3-year study. I think I went up in the Marriott 4 times. And the last time I did it was January 2019, and it was a 10-hour live stream. It's not just one photo. I have thousands of photos.
Yeah, we pretty much just see that one bridge photo usually, but I've seen your video. Yeah. You think taking a picture through glass doesn't affect the picture at all?
Sure it could.
In what ways?
What do you mean? I mean, the glass is warping or something like that, then it could affect it. Or if it's dirty, it could cloud it a little bit.
Does it distort the photo?
Well, if it did, then the
shape of the objects you're taking a picture of?
If it did, then the objects that were closer in would also be distorted, right?
Maybe. I mean, zoom is funny, right? You would agree with that.
No, I wouldn't agree with that at all.
You don't think zoom makes things kind of weird? Like, even I say that when I zoom in or all the way out, that's not being real truthful because it makes the object that I'm zooming into look further away than what my eyes can see, right? So, like, I'll try and start with my zoom where I can see it with my eyes, and then when I zoom into it, you can kind of...
Your eyes aren't a standard of the proper amount.
The geometry is exactly the same.
So that picture that you took is indicative of the shape of the bridge, is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we proved that with GPS profile.
So in your picture that I'm looking at, the section of the bridge that's tall appears to be very, very steep, right, at that angle? And it's not that steep. I mean, I just drove over it yesterday.
See, that's not an issue of the glass in the window. That's called foreshortening.
It's
okay.
I
just asked him if the picture was indicative of the shape of the bridge.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely indicative of the shape of the bridge. Correct.
But
this is
that section is not that steep.
This is not an abnormal thing. You can take any curve and look at it on the side, and that has nothing to do with the geometry being wrong. It has to do with perspective.
Yeah. When I raised this, when I raised this with Bev and Anthony Riley earlier, the argument that they threw back at me was that was the result of perspective compression, effectively, or something that Mick West had described, and it was purely down to that compression that caused the accentuated curve, and there wasn't really a curve there. And any curve that was there was introduced by the refraction of light. And so this is where the debate comes in, because the misconception that I think flat earthers have is that they're basically saying that the curve that we see over long distances is due to the bending of light, and it's not really there. It's an atmospheric effect. And then when we do things that encourage perspective compression or other type of visual effects, so to speak, all it's doing is accentuating what they deem to be a flaw in the picture taking in the first place. So no one that denies the globe is ever going to accept any variation on any kind of long distance photo, because the argument's always going to be, well, light bends, and therefore you get a better result.
Let's do a brief history on this. First of all, I did a video on this on my channel. I mean, this is something that was talked about years ago. It's not up for debate or even questionable. People know what perspective compression is. There is no compression actually in perspective compression. That's just a misnomer. First of all. Second of all, there's been debates about a number of things. One is something about perspective or perspective compression or perspective, I like to call it. And the other one is it the atmosphere? Is it the atmosphere causing the curve? Right. Those are the two things that just taking a photograph isn't going to answer in any type of way that's going to be satisfying to people. So that's why Jesse Kozlowski did the GPS profile. Because once you do the GPS profile and you see that the GPS profile matches the model, which also matches the photo, then all this idea about the atmosphere being the cause of curves is completely thrown out the door. And so that's why they don't want to talk about Jesse Kozlowski's profile over and over again. They want to deny it or avoid it or say something about GPS is made by the Freemasons or something like that. It's just, but I mean, we have done everything that you can that a human being can possibly do to give you a satisfying, and they just denied it anyway.
Funnily enough, this was one of the things that I raised, was that obviously Jesse went out there with you and the GPS measurements with his LiDAR device. And since then, I've actually been on Jesse's Facebook page and started asking Jesse some questions about it. And I just wanted some kind of common sense answers, but all Jesse would throw back at me is read the fucking manual, basically. And he would throw me a link to a manual or some geodetic surveying stuff. And obviously, me not being a professional in the industry, it's going to mean about as much to me as it's going to mean to any flat earther. I might understand a bit of it, but I'm not going to understand all of it. And I was hoping that he would explain how the surveying actually works in this sense over the long distance, and how they figure out that what they're actually surveying is accurately a curve. And I'd be really interested to hear Jesse's version on this, about like how he understands what that LiDAR kit is actually doing and how it's actually registering that curve that you're then able to model, and why that's different to, for example, your picture soundly, where you're showing that curve, but that could be put down as atmospheric distortion. So why can't the GPS data be put down as atmospheric distortion in the same way, right? Because presumably the GPS signals are part of the RF frequency range, of which light is a piece of as well.
I'm not sure what LiDAR thing is, so I can't even comment on that. I don't know what you're talking about there.
Yeah,
I know
there was no LiDAR. I don't know why he's saying LiDAR. LiDAR is what they put on self-driving cars to map out their surroundings by shining a laser beam and measuring the reflections off of them and ranging them.
Oh, sorry, my bad. But you know what I mean. The GPS sensor they stuck on the roof of the car to take the measurements.
Yeah, the GPS sensor is basically just detecting where the, it really, to be honest, it wouldn't even matter. It's the same technology could be used ground-based if you wanted to, so that doesn't even matter. Whether it's satellite or ground-based, it might not be as accurate, but you can still do it. It's basically just a triangulation of well-known, well-established stations. You know where something is. I know exactly where it is. I know where 3 of these things are, and based on that, I can determine like where I'm located. I think with GPS, you have to have 5, but
yeah. So that seems
the idea basically is triangulation. I mean, you're just trying to triangulate your position in Cartesian coordinate system. I mean, that's
and that was my understanding of it as well. But they seem to want a bit more description above and beyond that. And I said, well, I couldn't tell you because it's not something that I specialize in or know enough about. But I would really love to hear like a specialist's point of view on this, and a really dumbed down version, if you like, of the complex description about how GPS actually works when we're doing this over long distances, and how we can have faith when we record a curve in our raw data. That's actually what we've got, and it's not some misconception, or it's a fault, or it's implied, or it's computed, you know what I mean, as opposed to it actually being a curve. Because if we can establish that GPS can be trusted, and this is the reason why, and what it's actually recording is actual, then that's part of the argument already kind of ironed out, essentially. Everybody accepts that GPS works. The problem is that nobody can agree on how it works, and it would be really cool to hear a professional point of view.
I don't know if Jesse Kozlowski is a specialist in how GPS works. You can look up and see how the protocol is designed, and people have made their own GPS receivers and written their own software for it. All the satellites are transmitting is a very precise time, along with a location within the coordinate system of where they were at that moment of time.
Yeah, I did too. Years ago, though, it was when I was at college, and 20 years ago. I'd love to have somebody who's got that knowledge today, who's using it actively. And has that kind of.
I think the equipment that Jesse gives is it just gives coordinate. It's just sampling coordinates at a certain rate,
right?
And the raw coordinates within the geodesic, within the
right. So the globe.
He showed the data file for it. It's just a bunch of coordinates that are sampled at a certain rate.
Right. So the globe denier's argument is going to be, well, you don't know how that's working, and it's presupposing R, and that's why it's showing curve, right? That's always going to be the argument. So We need somebody who can say, no, it's not presupposing R. Here's how it actually
There's
works.
no magical incantation that you can say that will suddenly have these guys shut up. I mean, they're going to deny everything. So just get that idea out of your head that you're going to say this magical incantation of words that they'll have no way to refute, because there's no such thing. They'll deny everything. They already have pictures from space.
We're not trying to deny R, but when we see R being used in the math, doing elevation formulas based on the center of the Earth, then we have to question things. And I just posted a picture of
R's
the
not being
Pontchartrain
used in
Bridge.
math.
And some of the math it is.
Which presupposes sphericity. The software.
Earth-centered Earth. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Earth-centered Earth's fixed coordinates do not presuppose any type of anything other than a three-dimensional geometry. That's it.
Three-dimensional geometry. So how do we know how much is programmed in there versus what it's actually seeing? We don't.
Dude, it's just like a distance finder. Like it's detecting a signal. That's all it's doing.
Based off of what model? What is the basis of the model and the programming? That's what we have.
Dude, again, there's no model. It's position and time of that position. Position and time of that position from different transmitters. The receiver takes all that information, says, okay, this signal came from this position at this time, this signal came from this signal at this time, this signal came, and does all that, and computes its position in an X, Y, and Z coordinate system. Has nothing to do with radius or anything. What are you talking
about? X, Y, Z coordinate. There's nothing else to it.
That's exactly
what you get.
Can I talk about the pictures that I've posted in live text about the bridge?
Yeah.
Because the picture of the Lake Pontchartrain looks like a painting. Is that yours, Soundly, or is that just one that off the internet?
What you talking about?
Let's see. I'll give you the time here.
3:52.
3:54, or it might be a lag on yours. 3:52 is the pictures that I posted.
3:54 is mine. Yeah, that's mine.
Okay, so look at that first hump. Now you would agree that real tall hump right in front of the water tower. That's the second. That's the second high hump in the bridge, right? There's like 5 different ones, and that's the second one. That's the closest one towards calls.
There's that one, and then there's that one, and there. No, that's the one that's closest to Mandeville. No, not Mandeville. Closest to
Covington.
Metairie.
No, then that's only 8 miles away, right there. That large hump, the one right underneath the water tower.
Yeah, actually, I have to recall how far away that one is. I think it is 8. I think you're right on that.
It's got to be the second one, because it would be another one unless we just can't see it.
There's two tall ones, and you can see both of them in that photograph.
Okay, I see the other one past it. Yeah, the first one is underneath the water tower. Okay, so go back towards New Orleans and see that smaller hump.
We're on the New Orleans side right here, yeah. Okay,
right,
so
go back
hump
at the bottom of the picture. Yeah.
Pretty sure that one's 4 miles away.
It's about 4 miles, right? You're right. And see how steep it is? It looks like a ramp, correct?
It's called foreshortening. It's an issue of perspective. It's nothing to worry
about. This is your subjective perception, because it does not look like a ramp to me, because I know that each one of those signposts are, I think they're 1/10 of a mile. So you're looking at almost a whole mile there.
You said a while ago there was no foreshortening, correct?
No, I did not. I never said there's no foreshortening.
Okay, what did you deny then? You said there wasn't any.
Using the word compression is a misnomer. It's something that photographers use before they realize flat earthers exist.
I'm all cool with that. So tell me and tell the audience why that looks so short and compressed and tall and steep. Whatever words you want to use, because that and the second one right underneath the water tower is not reality.
It is reality. That is the geometry of it. Stop and let me answer. That is the actual geometry being reflected as you would expect it to be reflected whenever you're looking at it at that angle. If you took a pull stick that had a slight curve in it and you looked at it, it looked really drastic, that curve. Even though the curve isn't that drastic. That's how we actually check to see if we want to use that pull stick when we go to the bar, right?
Okay, fine. So what is causing that in the photo? Because that is.
You're looking down the edge of the bridge. That's what's causing it. You're looking down the edge of the bridge right there. That's exactly what's causing it.
Okay, but that is not. I don't know how else to explain it. If you go up to that height, you're 15 stories up, I believe, in this photo in the Marriott, and you go look with your eyesight, you're not seeing that every day.
Yes, you do. You just don't know what you're looking at. If you take a camera and you zoom in on the part that's curving, and then you zoom out and look at it with your eyes with 20/20 vision, you can see that curvature. It's really tiny, but it's there.
I've heard that from you before. Now go up to my two pictures, 252.
Is anyone on Slice Back Ains Discord server?
So 252.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, so 352.
Yeah. I suggest you get a little higher.
No,
so you can avoid.
I can show you those two pictures of I'm on top of the levee. Here I'm closer. I'm on the ground below the levee. But I've taken the same two pictures from the same two spots. It does the same two things on the same. You can just see more of the bottom of the bridge when you get, but you can never see the bridge in that bottom picture, no matter how, like, even on top of the levee that day, I couldn't see the bridge. And see how it's being mirrored and dragged to my angle. And then the tower behind it is off to, for some reason. Explain that. This is the same viewer height, right? Same position.
No,
same.
Definitely not the same position.
It's not the same position.
Oh yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
It's right in front of that park bench in front of the Marriott.
You have a different orientation of the side of the bridge. You're the same location.
Okay, well that's why I'm asking, because I know it is, and that's why I'm asking you why it's doing that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're incorrect. You somehow have got yourself confused. You're not in the same position right there.
Okay. I mean, I've never gone left or right of that park bench. It's a green park bench right in front of the Marriott.
I suggest that you document it, and then we can talk about it for real.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all the time, right? I've only had this once. I had a rock phenomena also that has been explained to me pretty good in the same spot. But let's just talk about these two pictures. This is only 6 days apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would agree
about 300 yards distance to the left distance.
Yeah, that's debatable.
All right, let's talk about what you want to talk about, which is the
right. Why it looks like reality, and see the top picture, how steep that bridge. That's reality, right? That's how steep it is.
Not. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's the same exact. They have marine humps and they have bascules and the marine span, and they're the same exact length. Each one of the marine. Same exact situation.
Say that again, because there's two of them that are that tall, and there's three other ones that are smaller in height.
Yes. So there's marine humps, which are the small ones. Then there's a marine span, which is on the Metairie side, and then there is a bascule, which the marine span and the bascule are both tall, and the bascule is on the Mandeville side.
And this is the marine span on the Metairie side that I'm shooting right.
Okay.
This is the one closer to Metairie. The two tall ones are relatively the same height, correct?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know for sure.
Relatively, within a couple of feet.
They're both a lot taller than the other ones.
And this is the one that I'm showing you in your picture that looks so steep, correct? That appears to be so steep.
Well, it appears to be steep here too, and if you went closer to the angle where I was, it'd appear even steeper.
So the further you get closer to the side of the bridge,
the steeper it'll look.
The steeper it would appear to be, right? But it doesn't get steeper. That's what I'm pointing out in your photo. It appears to be way steeper than reality.
But it doesn't actually. No, I mean the geometry. If you know the angle that you're at, you can actually tell the steepness of it, and the steepness of it doesn't change. It's consistent. Like the steepness of it is actual measurement, right? And if you actually took your angle and took that into account as part of the measurement, you would see that the steepness is exactly the same.
I'm just stating, and I'm stating for the record, or however you want to say it. this picture that I have, and is that me doing that? There's a lot of background noise on.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Someone's got a
Dr.
lot of
Curious,
background.
you're really loud. Can somebody mute Dr. Curious, or like Dr. Curious, can you mute yourself? Thank you.
You understand what I'm saying, right? The steepness that appears to be in this photo and your photo are totally different, and you're saying it's just because the angle that you're taking.
It feels weird when you say totally different, because I don't agree with that. Whenever I look at the geometry in my head, or like you can go to Walter Bislin's model and rotate it, and you can actually see the difference. Like just in the geometry itself with no atmosphere, you can actually see the geometry do this as you rotate the bridge. So it doesn't feel different to me, like geometry-wise. That's all it is perspective. Yeah.
It's no different than in those old or whatever, and they do the force something in the back.
You're saying photo, even if you're looking at it live, not or angle. If you look at the space, the bottom and the bottom of this side and the bottom of the other, it be short on an angle.
Looked at and so the rotates it around.
Yeah.
I mean, in that animation right there, which has nothing to do with atmosphere at all, it's purely, you can see exactly this.
What I'm stating is this is not reality. When you're on top of that span and you look out towards that water tower, you're not at that height. It appears either your eyes are playing tricks on you, or you're not at that height. You see what I'm saying?
You are at that height. The height doesn't change.
Guys, I have a question about that. How tall is that hump?
I don't recall.
Maybe.
No, it's a 60-foot clearance, so it's a little bit taller.
Maybe
60-foot clearance. So that's at the bottom of it. So, and how tall is the clearance of the typical roadway?
I think 15, if I recall.
20.
Here, I'll find it.
20. Yeah, we can go with 20. I mean, that's relative. It's not going to make that big of a difference. I don't think that's being disputed at all.
And there's actually a page here on the causeway.us that tells you the exact clearances for marine.
Yeah.
Or there's a link from here to causeway.
I'm curious as to what's your final end game on this whole thing with the bridge, though. Is it that the Earth is flat? Because there's like 1,000 other completely independent evidences to show that the Earth is not flat. So I'm curious as to what is your whole end game in this whole scrutinizing of the Pontchartrain Bridge.
Yeah, when I go out and take my own pictures of the bridge, or on different days, I have pictures of the hotel also from the Covington side. One day it's floating in the air. One day you can basically see 90% of the building. Usually in the winter time, it's really just atmospheric conditions that changes. But as far as I know about water finding and seeking its level, I just don't see the force holding on water. Let's say over this short span, 26 miles, you're telling me there's a water. I mean, I call it a bulge, but the water would have to be higher in the middle of that bridge than on either side of the bank. On each side, Covington and Metairie. That just doesn't happen. But I am measuring it too. I know that optics can fool you, and there's no way to prove either side on with optics only, because there's just so many variables that can be disputed, and I agree with that. It's just never can be proven with optics only. You have to measure it in certain ways. But if you're using GPS and that's biased with are already calculated in, then I want to do it find
Well,
out.
what about just measuring the angle of Polaris as you travel across the surface of the Earth, right? Like the fact that it's right over your head when you're on the North Pole, and it's right on the horizon when you're near the equator, and it's 69 miles for every 1 degree. That should be case shut right there, because there's only one geometry that will make that happen, and that's the geometry of an arc.
Yeah. With things known, with the variables known.
Why is that not valid? The fact that you can just travel, you can just get in your car and drive for 10 hours and measure a substantial change in the angle that corresponds exactly to 1 degree for every 69 miles. And you could make a handheld protractor with a straw and a weight with like $1, 99-cent store materials to measure 10 degrees. 10 degrees is a big change.
I understand that.
Angles change due to perspective rather than raising and lowering in elevation, so you can't tell the difference.
How does perspective make an object that's over your head appear to be on the horizon? How does perspective do that?
Something can stay at one elevation and appear to dip due to perspective as it gets further and further away from you, so you don't know if the angle is from
But not at a fixed rate of 1 degree per 69 miles. It would be at a decreasing rate where you'd have to go further and further to make a smaller and smaller change. You can do that in the geometry of a triangle on a flat surface.
Yeah, I think when we get into the celestial bodies, I just don't see that as a great.
No, you can't talk about the celestial bodies because they completely debunk the flat Earth. That's why it's taboo in the flat Earth, because everything over your head debunks
about it.
No, I'm not. It's just a fact. I mean, everything that has to do with the sky debunks the flat Earth. So the sky is like a no-no. You can't talk about the sky because the sky debunks flat Earth.
Well, see, I can go to this bridge here. I can't go to Polaris, so that's why I concentrate on things that I can feel.
You can get in your car and drive for 10 hours and see a huge change in Polaris and measure that difference and see that it is 1 degree per 69 miles.
I'm not disputing that there's a change. I'm not disputing that. I'm disputing that it's a point in the sky that might be fooling me. I don't even know what that medium is up there and how it could project the light.
It's one data point, and here's the thing.
Do you know the medium? Do you know that medium? How far is Polaris away from you right now?
It's irrelevant how far it is. It's completely irrelevant to what I'm talking about. Absolutely.
And refraction and everything that might be affecting it, the light gets your vision at that angle. Maybe it's being, I mean, come on, man. Let's be real.
It's going to make something that's over my head appear in front of me. I mean, how would that work?
You need to know the basis of your cosmology, whether the land is flat or because in your cosmology, everything affects a Neoplatonic curve and becomes a round ball. If the basis of that is shot, then you need a new model.
Here's the problem. You can make one exception. You can make an exception for every individual observation, but when a bunch of completely independent observations all add up to the same thing, that it's a sphere with a certain radius, right? Then you would have to say, well, why is this completely consistent with completely mutually exclusive observations? It's consistent to the same number, the same radius.
Consistency with a bunch of inductive observations.
No, because if you look at 1 degree per 69 miles, it tells you that.
Off? Why, we want to hear both sides, right? And you're just so cut him off for some reason.
Lemon's worth cutting.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on.
Lemonbird just comes in here and he just makes up.
No, but I'm here too. I want to hear.
Well, you also have satellite pictures that are cut and paste. So you're going to need an overarching model with assumptions to take those cut and paste satellite photos and cobble it together into a whole. The cut and paste is basically based off of the idea of it being a sphere. So they take those cut and paste satellite photos and assume a spherical whole to piece the pieces together. That is where the GS, geoid model comes in, and where the assumption of the software comes in about how do we take all these puzzle pieces and put them together so that all of these people can communicate with the same satellite system.
You do realize, Lemon, what you just said there was using a piece of globe technology that took a load of pictures, they strapped those pictures together to fake a globe.
Pretty much. All they did was take the puzzle piece pictures, thousands of pictures, and put them together with the whole, based off the assumption that the whole made a globe. You could put it into a flat model, too, and take all those puzzle pieces and put it into a flat whole if you have a flat assumption, too. That's where the rubber meets.
Is that how
Why
they
you
made
keep
the
saying
32 blue marble?
Lemon, I suggest you look up ground control points and ortho rectification on how those images are put together in a mosaic.
Again, I don't understand. We've already discussed how the distances don't work over and over, shown, proven that you cannot match the distances from a flat Earth to a globe unless you want to just throw out your model and say there must be some flat Earth out there that can turn into a globe, which it can't because we all know you can't squash a freaking orange into a flat surface. This is a classic like topographical problem with math. Like what? I don't understand why we're still here.
Problem is figuring out how many degrees it is per mile.
Well, that's why there's no flat Earth map, right? Because you can't make the flight distances work out. You can't make all the distances, from New York to Australia and all the other points, from Australia to Brazil. You can't make any of those things work. You can't make any of those things work.
And the degrees per mile assumed off of a globe are going to be much different than the degrees per mile assumed off of a flight.
It doesn't. We know the rate at which planes fly at, so we know that these distances are correct. So there's no way for you to say that. Oh well, we don't really know these distances. We know these distances, and so we know that when you plot these distances around multiple locations and cities and the flight times, you can figure out the geometry very easily, and it only works on a sphere.
The flight distances are calculated based off of the Haverside formula, which goes off of a spherical assumption. So we may need to go off of different axioms and different assumptions and see if it works with different degrees per mile on a flat model. Or
okay, well, not one flat earther has done that and produced a working map, though. Not one.
Do that and get back to us, Lemon.
There hasn't been. They've tried.
I don't understand why you're
some
getting
starting
so
points.
excited.
I mean, we
Y'all
have
got
some
it all figured out. Why are y'all here?
Well, we have some, but the
here
thing
for the laws.
The thing that encumbers our model. The thing that encumbers our model is the lack of satellite coverage in the North and South Pole, whether or not all of the land continents are there, or whether or not all of the land continents are accurately spaced and placed, and whether or not we have all of the land on the map in the proper degrees per mile. But the North Pole appears to be in the center with an Antarctic ice ring of about 60,000+ miles. We can go from there with various tweaks of the model to see what we could get over a flat plane from there.
Well, why hasn't a single flat earther put together an expedition to go those 60,000 miles around the ice wall and document it for us? Because no one's ever done that in the flat earth.
Jarl Anderhoy tried to, and two of his friends got killed for his trouble. So you just gotta watch out for the Antarctic Treaty. And
every 4 years, there is a race to circumnavigate Antarctica as a part of a yacht challenge. You realize that, right?
60-degree latitude, not close enough to count or even be worth a damn.
At 60-degree latitude, they would still have to travel much, much further than they actually wind up traveling.
And how do you know this?
Because they make it back. Because the time that they take to go and make it back.
Cool.
All you have to do is
you guys are just going to deny everything, right? So you're going to deny the flight times. You're going to deny the maps. I mean, how do you think people navigate? Have navigated for freaking centuries.
The basis of it, the 8 inches per mile squared is missing, so you have no basis to base the globe off of except very questionable optical geometry, which is based off of extremely theoretical notions of how light behaves.
Why is it that you can use a watch, a chart, and a sextant, and you can find your position anywhere on Earth if you're sailing, right?
Because the sun is circling over the flat.
Yeah.
All you need is 2 points and find the distance between 2 points on the Earth, and prove that doesn't correlate with the globe model, and that's how you prove
that. That's plain sailing. That has nothing to do with spherical geometry. That's plain sailing over a plane. The rest of that is rhetoric.
Only works for short distances.
No,
plain sailing only works for short distances.
Maps of the sky before they knew it was or before they assumed it was a sphere. They just used what they saw in the sky at certain times in the year, mapped it out, new positions, and that's how they did it. They kept mapping and mapping and mapping based on a flat plane. Am I still here?
You are indeed.
It's impossible to have every coordinate match perfectly between a flat map and a globe. So find 2 points that don't match up with the globe, and you've proven your point. Then you can prove we're not
It's just absolutely ridiculous because there's so many independent observations that show that we're on a sphere of a certain radius. You know, you can measure how much the horizon drops as you rise up a mountain, and just measure, measure the degrees of drop of the horizon from a level line. Right? That'll give you the radius, which will also give you the same radius as measuring how much Polaris changes as you travel across the surface. You get the same radius.
So you obviously don't have cable TV, right? Because why else would you be here for the lulls if you could just watch TV or something?
But yet again, we're going to the
watches
sky
TV
instead of
anymore.
looking at the ground. So you need to go to the ground directly first with the laser over the land to see if it hits the target or hits the hump of Earth curvature first to see if there's any basis to your model.
Yeah. Yeah. How does the ISS work too? I mean, you can track the ISS, and we know that the app. We know that the app works.
Are you just going down the list?
It's just an endless number of things that flat earthers can't explain that they just hand wave away. And you can bring up an exception for every single one thing, but all of them corroborate to the same answer.
You have no basis. The only thing that changes about the satellite narrative is the propulsion mechanism. Globe-making, orbit-making gravity would not slingshot anything around the Earth if globe-making, orbit-making gravity does not exist on that level. It would be something.
How does the ISS go from? How does the ISS go from the southern tip of Africa to being in northern Europe within minutes?
It's not that far. You're just dealing with probably a solar drone or a satelloon, with the rest of it being propped up by them being in a Hollywood studio or something like that behind CGI screens. Half of the fakery there, half of the fakery with something else that's a light in the sky.
It's going like 60,000 miles. It's going like 60,000 miles across the flat Earth in like minutes. When it disappears from southern southern Africa, and it appears over Europe. I mean, what is happening?
I'm worried about you. You need to
just a light in the sky.
It's gonna hurt yourself.
Just a light in the sky. That's it. Just a light in the sky.
Yeah, well, that's what you have to do. But people have, they've watched it pass over the sun and the moon, and people have used, LX200s with the tracking app to look at it up close, and it doesn't look like a light in the sky. You can see something that looks exactly like the ISS. Astronomy Live did it, and they even had an open invite for flat earthers to come when he did the live tracking on his LX200 because he wrote the software to track it on his mount.
Just because some globe biased, software geek makes a program does not make. Why aren't the laser tests showing this curvature?
The telescope. You can see it through the telescope. So what do you think that is up there? That's traveling at 17,000 miles per hour. Is that something
you need to have a basis for your belief? Check the basis of your belief with actual curvature on the land. But if you don't have it, you need a model that takes that into account.
What is this object that's traveling 17,000 miles per hour? I really want to know. And you can independently verify that because you can just call your friend that's, downrange of it, that's 200 or 300 miles away, and you can time how long it takes for him to see it. Right?
It's probably not that far out and probably not going that fast. It's probably closer.
Well, wait a minute. If it's over my head in Las Vegas, then it's over my friend's head in Los Angeles, and it does it within a few minutes. It just traveled 300 miles in like a few minutes.
Okay. As a perspective, you have a wide panoramic view of what's in the sky. That doesn't mean that it's exactly, the distance that you think. Perspective does some really crazy stuff.
If it's overhead, it's over my zenith. Wait a minute. If it's over my zenith and then it's over his zenith a few minutes later, and he's hundreds of miles away.
Right.
Lemon, why don't you take a flight from Sydney to Santiago in 12 and a half hours?
Sydney, Australia to Santiago, Chile?
Yeah.
You could cut straight across the northern section in the middle. The south is the outer rim, the northern section's in the middle. You could cut straight across in the middle to go there.
Yeah, but you'd be flying over land, which people don't see in the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, why does it take longer to get to LA from Sydney than to get to
Jetstream?
You're saying to fly across LA from Sydney to get to Chile. You're saying to take that route, yet you can get to Chile faster than you can get to LA.
Jetstream, baby. You gotta try to shoot the jet streams.
No, you said fly over North America, go through the center.
Even if you fly
You
directly,
catch a faster jet stream, then you just catch that jet stream, even if it's a longer route, because it adds 300 miles per hour to your trip. Booyah!
But you don't see any land. What? You don't see any land. You don't see any land. You'd be flying over continents on that path, but you don't. You don't see any land during that entire flight.
Go get a jet stream. It may be faster, and it may be better to knock over the land in that case, because you get a 300 mile per hour boost with the jet.
You're saying land, you're jet streams are 300 miles an hour, Lemon? You're
Yeah,
saying
jet streams clock up to like 300 miles per hour, yeah.
really?
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
All right.
if you're flying on the fastest jet stream and you're going directly over land, you're not getting there in 12.5 hours on a flight.
Well, there's also the degrees per mile problem that I stated before. We probably have the wrong number of degrees per mile. And so that's going to affect your circumference and what you think you're seeing over an AE map. Probably the wrong number of degrees per mile.
I'd like to ask only one question real quick, and then y'all can get back to the flight times, which is... Wow.
So I think what Lemon's saying is the flat Earth doesn't add up or is not equal to reality.
No map adds up and is equal to...
So then how do all the airlines voting? How does all the if there's no map that matches up to reality, then how do all the airlines and shipping companies and everyone else that has to traverse the world, how do they manage to do it?
And they do it before, or they knew it was a sphere.
Error bar, obviously. And they stay within the range of air that's acceptable in the map. But as you get toward the poles, the discrepancy becomes glaringly apparent.
Yeah.
Weirdly, not on any map that's modeled on a globe.
Can I ask a question to Lemon?
I thought somebody had a question for me.
Yeah, Stanley. I wanted to ask you something real quick. You say that we could never see the bottom of the Marriott Hotel. Isn't that what you? Am I quoting from the Covington side?
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because the Earth is curved.
Anything else?
There wouldn't be any more reason.
Let's say the Earth. Let's just pretend that the Earth is flat, and you could see all the way from shore to shore, from shoreline at the water to the Metairie side where the Marriott Hotel is to the water line. Would you be able to see the bottom of the?
You'd see a levee in front of it.
Oh, there's a levee in front of it. Thank you, sir. So Earth curve.
So a 20-foot levee is somehow accounting for 250 feet of missing building?
Well, you just failed to mention that there is a levee. So just in case you can see that far on certain days,
I just
never see the
mentioned it.
bottom of the building. Yeah, I just wanted to point it out and make sure I heard it.
Can you see the levee?
What sort of gotcha is that? No, you cannot.
Yes, you
can
can.
never. No, you
Fuck you, flat earthers are so fucking dishonest.
That's
Bullshit.
such a lie, dude. I've been there. I went there for 3 years, like almost every day in a row for months at a time, in all sorts of different conditions, whenever it's hot, cold, whatever. And you can never see the levee on the other side of the shore from a reasonable height, like 15-foot height, let's say. Now, if you go up higher with drone, sure, you'll be able to see it.
How high?
Well, I don't know how high. I can tell you that I've been able to see almost
10 feet.
I've been able,
What about 25?
No, well, no. You have to get up like hundreds of feet. What are you talking about? I just showed you. A video of it just a second ago and a GIF.
Cool.
Are you?
I missed it. No, I missed it.
All of the flat Earth arguments around why we can't see stuff seems to be like you can only see so far, or angular resolution type problems, or dirty air, or some crap like that. The fact is, you can see the other side. You can see effectively stuff that's beyond the shoreline, but you can't see the base of that stuff. So either we can see it or we can't. And if we can see it but not see the base of it, then it's hidden by something. So what's it hidden? Even though it's not hidden, because we can still see the top of it.
That's inaccurate. You would have compression into your eye line parallel to the flat plane. And so you need to make sure that the angle from your eye line up or down is wide enough to make a 2D image. Otherwise, you're just going to see a compressed line at the horizon. So you don't need to have a globe hump of Earth curvature to block anything. You just need to have compressed visual angles parallel to the flat plane. That is all.
You're saying soundly from 10 floors up in his hotel room can see the 50th floor on a building opposite him, but he can't see the first floor because of eye lines.
Because it's too smushed, too compressed, and too sandwiched together to make a 2D image. All you have is unresolvable line.
Information doesn't get back to you.
At exactly 30 past the hour, I posted a GIF, and if you look on the left side of the hotel, you see a bridge in the background. Bonus points for whoever looks up what that bridge is and how tall it is. Because you're losing hundreds and hundreds of feet. It's not due to refraction. It's just nobody,
how can we see the building at all?
Not a single flat earther can that there's ever been an amount of refraction that would be required to bend the light that much. Not a single one.
It's diffraction through the eye that causes the horizon. The diffraction through the eye is the main culprit because those light rays
about using word salad. Put some ranch on that.
Diffraction is just how the light enters through an opening and splashes through an opening. Refraction is when it goes through the air or the medium. Diffraction is when it goes through an opening. That's the only difference. When the light goes through the diffraction, the opening crosses and gives you a merging zone where you have where the light rays cross and are so sandwiched together you don't generate an image. That's all.
Prove everything that you just said, Lemon. Blah blah blah. Word salad.
Life is Short goes over it in detail. You still haven't watched the video. Watch the 3-hour video that goes over the Rayleigh criteria, the diffraction limit, and all of this theory and how it can work over a flat plane. For God's sake, I'll put it in the chat.
Lemon's getting triggered.
And misunderstand it this badly, Lemon.
Soundly, that video that you posted at 4:30, 30 past the hour, how far away are you from the tall part of the bridge? Because almost all of it is being hidden when you go down with your drone. We living on a basketball here?
Again, it matches exactly what we expect to see on a globe the size of Earth. You guys, when you guys get to basketball, it's like you're giving up. That's like you.
Wait a minute now. There's
hold on. Let me finish talking. Whenever you get to basketball, we're living on a basketball. Whenever you do that, that's you giving up and basically conceding.
No, I'm not giving up. I'll never do that. I promise you. Either way, I'm fine with either way. But what you're showing there is a big piece of the water blocking the bridge, right? The whole bridge disappears.
I don't understand why. It's the most intuitive GIF that you can.
Did you go underwater? That's what I don't get.
I don't understand why you can't understand what you're looking at right there.
You're telling me that
surface of the water is
60 foot high.
The surface of the water is curved, dude. The surface of the water is curved.
From that short a distance, it would have to be a hell of a curve, right, to block 60 foot of that bridge, or maybe it's something else.
No, it would have to only be the height that we expect it to be on a globe.
Golly, I mean, I don't know how you can just say that. That bridge.
How can I say that?
Is only about 4 miles away.
Walter Bislin modeled this exact scene right here. He modeled this exact scene right here, which is all the calculations you need.
How tall is that building? How tall is the Marriott? It's the whole top of it.
The animation that he made that does this exact flight right here. That's all you go look at.
How tall is the Marriott? How tall is the Marriott again?
Oh no, he's talking about the celestial body.
The tall.
400 feet is being blocked in this photo, right? In this video.
The whole thing's not blocked.
Almost, damn near. I mean, more than usual, right? You would agree?
Not really. No, it's about.
I think so. I mean, I'm gonna try and slow it down. Let's see. The whole bridge raises up.
The bridge doesn't raise up, dude.
Yeah, no, I realize.
Obviously, the video is stabilized. Obviously, the video is stabilized on the Marriott.
Obviously, almost the whole Marriott gets hidden, plus all the.
Yeah, to explain that on a flat Earth.
Are you underwater?
No.
Did that drone go underwater?
You make no sense.
No, I make perfectly sense. That's an optical illusion right there, and you know it.
No, it's not either. Makes no sense.
Absolutely. Any 2-year-old can see that.
It looks exactly like we expected to see on a globe. If you want to deny that, that's fine. But you can't deny what our model is, and that this is what it's supposed to look like on our model.
I'm
You can't
seriously denying you now. If you think this is real right here, all your other stuff is pretty good, but this is totally even going against what you're teaching. The whole building is disappearing.
It's not the whole building, first of all. Second
So what
of all,
elevation? Let's get down to brass
third of
tacks.
all, this looks
What
exactly
elevation
like
are you
we
going?
expect it to look like.
What elevations are you going with your drone there? Do you have it?
I think it's 15 to 400. I don't know exactly.
15 to 400 feet in that short of a span?
Obviously sped up.
But the drone is going up and down. That's a drone, right?
Yes.
So you're going up to 400 feet right there and back down to 15 that quickly.
Obviously, the video is sped up.
If you sped up the video, it would obviously make the drone speed up too, right? If it went up at whatever, so many feet per second, if you sped up the video, it'd speed that up.
No, they recorded it at normal speed and then sped up the video.
Okay, so I'll give you
I
400
think we're
feet.
against the genius here, guys.
You got to go 400. So about 2 to the shore, maybe.
Rekia, it's okay to admit you were mistaken. The picture speaks for itself.
So would it, you think this you think this video is reality, or that something else is going on that's fooling your optics? Like it's fooling what? Like you don't agree that you don't agree that your eyesight can trick you in certain ways? Like
You're gonna have to prove that these optics don't
I'm
match
fine
the
with that. I'm
geometry,
fine with
because
that.
what we've done is prove that the geometry does match the optics.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you on that. Yeah. But for someone to sit there and say that's reality with that video is you've never been tricked with your eyesight or something.
But there's no known method to create false curvature.
What about it is fake?
I've been fooled with
Considering that I flew the drone, I know it's reality.
No, I understand that you were there and you did the drone. I'm just saying the way it videos. I mean, I've been fooled with my own zoom, right? I mean, it does funny things sometimes.
Yeah, but just because it's not intuitive to you doesn't mean it doesn't match the geometry, because it does in fact match the geometry, which we have demonstrated. So I'm not gonna.
No, I'm fine with the geometry part until I do my own. I can't dispute you on your geometry because that's a lot of work.
What are you saying is wrong about it, though? That's the thing.
I can't help you there. If you can't see what's wrong with that video, with all the building going missing and all that from 15 foot, I have a picture right now at shoreline where I'm 3 foot above the shore and I can see way more of the building. I just put way more of the same building. So at 15 foot, 15 foot, like 90% is being hidden, and you don't think that, or whatever atmospheric condition?
You know when like sailors used to like go up to the mast and look out with their little telescope thing?
Oh boy.
You can see much farther when you go a little bit.
Of course, your angle is different. Of course, you get up higher, you can see further. Of course, that would happen on a flat plane also, which it.
I'd like to disagree with that, and I've done a specific as
You
well.
can do all that. You can model it all you. That's reality. You can level. You can take a whatever you want and find a level surface and put something at the bottom. You can't see it, and then get up on a ladder and you can see it. Y'all deny. I don't see how y'all.
Well,
I think y'all are not getting what I'm saying.
Can you see if I share something? Can you see my screen if I go live? Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, give me a sec. Because I built this just for you. Boats and.
Show you my hotel again. That was from 3 foot from the Covington side, which is about. Soundly, how far do you think that is from Covington Beach to Metairie Beach? Because I think it's 26 miles.
Yeah, I mean anybody can open up Google Earth and figure that out. I don't know, somewhere up in there.
The road markers on the bridge say 24, and then you get different. Like Google will say one thing, and then even 24 miles is a long way.
Okay, check this just really quickly, because it's an ocean themed thing. Like I think you'd want? Let me know when you're viewing it, because I've got a question about this.
Hadn't come through yet.
You're on a computer this time, yeah?
No, I'm always on my phone. I'm never sitting still too much. I'm always driving or on my boat. Fixing to go play cards here in a little bit.
Can you see? Yeah.
Let's see. What are you under? What time?
The Stingray. I'll be right at the top of the list. It'll just say live.
No,
next.
I don't see anything. The last, hang on. Oh yeah. No, Frost. I don't see what you sent.
No. In the list, I'm sharing something live, as in you know, in the chat list.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. Let me go back. Yeah, I got it. Watch.
See my little Coast Guard ship.
See your little model.
Yeah, this is a Coast Guard ship, and we're going to need it in a minute as well. And I'll show you. So, what I decided to do was model the ocean, and I decided to put in some ships, and they're big ass military ships that go off into the distance. Now, there's nothing wrong about these. This is what we see in reality, right? Can we agree on that? Just if you wanted metrics, that's 2.5 kilometers away, 5 kilometers away, 7, 5, 10, 12, 5, 15, 17, 5, 20 kilometers. Sorry, I will add mile bloody things to it as well for you if you want.
No, we're good. I get that you're just spacing them.
Yeah. So they're equally spaced, and this is what we see in reality, right? This is
correct.
Awesome. And oh, by the way, we're 2 meters above the sea line here. This
so
is
would you
what
call
we
that
see.
perspective?
This whole thing right now, everything inside here is perspective, distance, and size reduction. But this is also geometry. Now, I decided to say, well, what would the ships do if they were going on a flat plane away from me? So I put in on the left-hand side to see what they would do. And that's what they do. They start levitating. You know, you start to be able to see the props on the left-hand, the second one. The props are almost providing no drive now, but it's okay because now there's no resistance in the fluid anymore because they just float off into the air. And this ocean surface, the one that matches the right, all the ships are doing is following a very gradual curve of the Earth, which is to scale. So the one on the right matches the geometry of the, predicts it entirely, and shows us exactly what we see on reality. The one on the left, which only uses the boat traveling away from us on a flat plane, does not match what we see in reality. I did that for you.
That's a really good presentation.
I've seen pictures of boats being levitated like that. Is that what you're saying? It's like going up.
Yeah, but the one that matches reality. If we actually go and have a look at the ones that actually match reality, this is the difference. The one on the right is in the water. The one on the left is floating. Physically, this is not possible. This is not what we see. This is what we see.
No, it's not about, like when you get them
Inferior mirages, yeah,
mirages.
Yeah, that's in that. And here's another thing. This was for Lemon actually. This next one, and I said I'd do it. So I've got a sundial, and I did say I've got a problem with a sundial. I can't make it work on a flat Earth. I just can't, and I can't find any reference in history to flat Earth sundial. So on a flat Earth, I'm going to have the sun rotating 24 hours in a linear speed, so it doesn't speed up, doesn't.
It
Can
does speed up.
can I interrupt just for a second?
Okay.
Hey, Rocky, if you're going to yawn, can you mute yourself?
Oh, I wasn't yawning.
So the sundial.
That was someone else, by the way. That was not me yawning.
The sundial.
I heard it too.
The sundial.
Anyway, Sean, thank
you. The sun. Oops.
It was me. It was me who yawned.
Yeah, it wasn't me. I know y'all like to blame me for everything, but
I didn't realise my mic was on mute. Off mute.
Yeah, thanks for coming clean.
Give me a second. I'm gonna get my, for some reason, a physics calculation just ended in Blender and it just kicked me out for some reason. So give me 2 seconds and I shall share again. But this sundial, I just can't get it to work, Rakia. It just absolutely doesn't work.
Yeah, you got me on
This
sundials.
slows down over a flat plane in both models. We're 93 million miles away from the sun one time, then 95 million miles away from the sun.
Lemon, I'm not on about distance. I'm on about the degrees in the sky. That's all I'm on about. Degrees in the sky.
Both would change the degrees in the sky.
Wait a minute. That's how a sundial works. Doesn't matter about the distance of the sun. It's the degrees in the sky. We get 15 degrees per hour, which means a sundial like this, placed in Florida, would actually work on a globe. But on a flat Earth, when I advance the clock 2 hours, 1 hour, it goes 2. And when it starts getting here, every hour now costs 2.5. Look at that. In 3 hours, I've moved 5 hours on a sun. Can you please tell me how to design a sundial that works on a flat Earth? And maybe we can find some reference to them in history as well. Because all I can find is globe ones.
Sundials are location specific. You have to angle the gnomon in a certain way, angle the sundial in a certain way, depending on your area. So sundials are not universal over the globe or the flat plane anyway. So your question is just immaterial.
No. So I've done this for this area. Can you tell me, changing this in Florida, which is whatever the latitude angle is, it doesn't work on a flat plane. It doesn't matter what. The problem is the sun comes past at more than 15 degrees per hour. It's never going to work. Can you please show me where I can see in a flat Earth sundial, please, so that I can model it and make it work on this? Cheers.
The sun speed would change over the flat plane. Based off of the math that I've done, it only goes 45 miles-ish an hour per hour more than it does normally. It works out to be, very negligible if you're looking at miles per hour. So it would change slightly, essentially.
So how many degrees per hour does your sun go round the flat Earth? Because I've got it going 15 at the moment.
All the time, it just goes fast.
Sorry. So from the center, I've got it going 15 degrees per hour because that's all I can only go off reality, and this doesn't work. So can you tell me how many degrees per hour I should be moving this? Because it better equal 360 in a day, or else there's going to be bigger problems.
I mean, I would say one thing. You don't really
per hour. Yeah.
Let me argue for you. The fact you should say to him, it's not really into scale, is it? Have you got all the ratios correct with the size of the Earth and the position of the sun and all that?
All I can do is just go off of the flat plane, make some assumptions, and try to model it from that base assumption. But the sun will just have to go faster to cover the same 15 degrees per hour with greater distance. It just varies its speed.
It'd have to slow down, Lemon. It'd have to slow down.
Slow down and speed up, yes.
Yes.
Slow down toward the north, speed up toward the south.
Not really.
Couldn't you speed it up by making it larger? I mean, couldn't you slow it down by making it...
No. So
making it larger? I would have to change size.
No. Wait a minute, guys. Distance will not make a difference. It is rotation. It is rotating on an orbit path around the flat. It does that once per day, which means when we divide it, I know that it has to go 15 degrees. But if you're saying it has to slow down and speed up, then we've got a bigger problem.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm a glober, by the way, but I'm just saying criticism for your map. Maybe it isn't.
Perspective and rational distances scale. So I could make this in real world terms. I could make this a millimeter or 20 trillion miles. Yeah. It would not make it.
Well, you can defend your own model. That's good.
They only scale at eye line. They do not scale if it's not at eye line. Same amount of the object has to be above and below your eye line, parallel to the flat plane.
No,
if it's not, it does not scale.
We're not looking at this through an eye line. We're looking down at it, and all we're doing is getting sunlight from the sun. We're not using anything other than straight trajectories to cast the shadow, and it doesn't work. I can't make one work on a flat Earth. It doesn't.
I'm sure you can. Keep trying. I'm sure you can.
I'm pretty sure that I can't, Lemon. But if you want to design me one that does work, or tell me the exact speed, because the problem is when you say it slows down and speeds up, you're telling me that would work now for one observer. For everybody else, that screws them up entirely. So you can either ever make it work for one individual. Yes, you can. If you control the speed of the sun, absolutely, you could make it work. The angle would still be off, but you'd be able to make a sundial work if you could speed it up. But it would only ever work for you in that location. If you went 1,000 or 5,000 miles east, you have to slow down coming past you again. This is not practical. This is not how sundials work. This is not how you find them in history. If you can find one, or give me a profile for the sun's, will try it for you, but it just will never work.
Well, I still hold to it going through the tropics, but I just challenge the number of degrees per mile, especially past the equator. I think that it gets increasingly off toward the south, as is evinced by the sailors' accounts of being hopelessly wrecked, trying to go off of what appears to be the globe assumption, and being able to, with dead reckoning, using plain sailing over what appears to be a flat, surface from A to B to get to their destination by throwing out these globular assumptions or whatever.
Right. So
based off of that, I would have to say that the maps are increasing toward the poles, and so the only thing to get the speed rate of the sun is you have to know what land it is going over specifically when it's, say, at its zenith, and assuming that that's not being messed with refraction or whatever. So you're going to have that speed, number one. Then you're going to have the speed off from center when the sun isn't overhead in the distance, when you're seeing the sun and seeing the zone of its coverage, and how much light its zone of coverage hits you from afar before you're so far away from the sun's are going to interpret based off of its zone of coverage and how much light it can cover to give you daylight. So we're going to need to see what sort of speed we're doing.
Cool. Right. So the only thing that I got from that, your first statement, is you're going to have to control the speed, and I get that. But do you understand that you could only ever make it work for you? You specifically said when it passes south of me, it has to slow down. That's brilliant. But I'm in the UK. So does it know where I am and will slow down at my point as well, thus having to increase the velocity between the two just to make up for the distance between? Do you understand that you are only giving only ever be correct relative to a single position on the?
Can anyone hear me now?
I can hear you.
I've been trying to say something, but evidently. Now, I wanted to interject. So not only do you have to create a sundial that works on your flat Earth, you have to make it work. You have to.
You've I think he means that you have to make it everywhere. I think that was his next statement. And say you have to make it everywhere on the world, not in one place, but everywhere.
Well, the globe has an even bigger problem because it has to act like there's globe curvature when we don't see 8 inches per mile squared of curvature.
Can I show you a globe and show you this sundial working perfectly if the globe rotates once every 24 hours? Do you understand?
Never take it off, bro. It's good.
Because it really does work. Everything works.
Let's have a look.
That's the problem. Wait a minute, give me a second.
How it works on the globe and then how it don't work on the flat Earth.
Well, I've just shown you how it doesn't work on the flat Earth.
Something works doesn't mean that the explanation behind why you think it works is true. That's a fallacy from pragmatism or whatever. You're thinking just because it works, it's true. It will not work.
No.
The old reality fallacy.
The pragmatism fallacy.
A reality.
I don't know
if
how
it looks
much
like reality. It must be wrong.
I keep getting disconnected. So
we can hear.
What evidence have you got to back up your your bloody explanations, mate. Come on.
Reality fallacy. Oh,
The fallacy of pragmatism, I would call it. You think just because something works, it's true. That's not necessarily the case. The explanation for why it really works and really is true may be totally different from what you think.
Where's your evidence?
The evidence, getting increasingly off as you get away from the equator toward the poles. The fact that we can't circumnavigate north line of a longitude.
Yeah, we can.
If you reckon that's an explanation, there's also another explanation, and that's a sphere.
No.
It was more.
Oh, a spherical. We don't see a sphere with laser tests. We're missing 8 inches per mile squared with long distance laser tests, and imaging is a real.
You're mistaken. You made it a mistake.
Where's your
That's
evidence
okay.
that we can't circumnavigate
to make a lot of
north-south?
mistakes.
Most of the circumnavigations have gone east-west and have not
south because they've done it. They just did it last year.
This longitude north. They had to cut across.
They went north-south across both poles. I don't care what you think. They went north-south across both poles.
They hit some sort of point and labeled the South Pole. They didn't do it in a practical way where they went from one side to the other.
Show me how that helps you. They did it. They did it. Okay.
They touched down on the tip of Antarctica and turned around. That's all.
Show me how that little deviation works on the pizza disc.
Yeah.
The deviation. Let me see.
Yeah, little tiny deviation. How does that work on a pizza disc?
Yeah. Also show us the path from one cove to the other. That that third of the distance around the disc. Somebody walked that in 54 days. Explain how that's possible.
Unmod. Oh, I've seen that video. Which let me see. I'm looking. Where's this picture you're looking at?
Beautiful.
Because you got to make it work. The pizza disc method, you got to actually make it work for the miles covered on a pizza disc. And that little deviation they did, you're gonna have to show how they got out the other side of Antarctica in a few hours and crossed over half the circumference of the Earth.
Good question.
Well, the reason they make that deviation is because they're going from continent to continent. And they didn't conveniently place the continents exactly 180 degrees apart. Sorry. Talk to your God about it.
all right then. That was a bit of a headache. Is that about? I want to see that sundial again. That was a really good demonstration. Probably the best thing I've seen.
Yeah, Wolfie 6020 has a really bad. He took a print out you can get off his web, where you can print out a sundial phase, and you print it out for your specific latitude, and then you fold it in a way where it gives you the gnomon at the correct angle, and he put on a flat surface, and he ran a light in a circle around it, where it intersected where those, and the times did not match up north to south, and they should. And then he took a light and he went in an arc overhead like it does in reality, and they matched up perfectly, synchronized perfectly.
Well, that's just because of coincidence, because all these coincidences all point to the globe, but that's just coincidence.
Well,
no, sundials are backwards engineering.
I think the paper he used came from communists. I think that's what the problem.
That's another.
Sundials are backwards engineering, assuming a globe so that you.
Well, show us one that will work on a flat Earth and be synchronized north and south.
Yeah, backwards and Earth perspective.
Yeah. It would have to change for every location how it would work. I mean, it wouldn't be the same.
No, that's a key fallacy. You're assuming if sundials then globe, that's a fallacy. Okay.
It would be completely different.
God. Everything's a fallacy. Fucking reality fallacy. I love that.
I like Nathan Oakley's appeal to a format fallacy about his show. If you criticize the show, you're committing an appeal to. It's like something he just made up.
You know this, what's it? It violates the second law of thermodynamics, gas pressure without a container. I mean, gas pressure without a container is true, but that's only if there's not a force acting upon the air, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I call him killing.
How do the gas particles get up to speed to escape out of the atmosphere? I thought escape velocity was like 27,000 miles an hour.
So rockets. Yep.
So I guess it has to reach that high of a speed to escape.
Is it a rocket ship?
So, okay, let me finish. So I said, okay, so by extrapolation, we can figure out that if we go really high, there's virtually nothing up there, to the point that what science would describe that as would be the vacuum of space, because we accept that there is no such thing as a perfect vacuum. There is no way that we can reproduce an area of space that has literally nothing in it, and it's not something that we've ever observed, so we can automatically assume that something like that exists. On that basis, however, what we have observed in reality by observing the gradient that we have in the atmosphere is the fact that without a container, because we've never found one, there is containment of the atmosphere. So what's the issue? And it basically boiled down to was that they rejected the acceptance of gravity, but the definition Riley liked to use was around instead of me. So when I talked about up and down and things like that, he said, no, you're using the wrong terminology. You need to use higher and lower density. So the heavier something is, the more dense it is, basically. And therefore, everything goes into this disequilibrium state when it's not in the right density layer, effectively, and it becomes in its equalized state when it's at the right layer. So what the argument was basically sea level is sea level, because that's the level that water goes down to, and say things like iron would go lower because it's more dense. And so I said, well, okay, fine. So it's falling through these different layers and it's arranging itself by density, but stuff's down when we do that in a vacuum, when we take out all of the medium that it can travel. So it knows to go down. But the issue that I had was, I said, well, how does it know to go down? How does it know to go that particular direction? And this was where the conversation sort of diverged a bit, and I felt like there was an amount of either misdirection or of what it was I was asking. But it really boiled down to that, and I still don't think that any globe denier will ever try and describe why down is down, basically. Because if
they won't, if you don't mind, when we did our vacuum experiment, when we did our vacuum experiment, there was no down. It just took everywhere.
Right. Jack, they also say things like, well, that's where all the air came from. That's where the gases came from. If that's where they come from, the proportion of gases will be closer to the source.
Well, God, everyone knows that down is where God.
Yeah, God.
So the confusion I had was, and we were talking about what's his name, that jumped the Red Bull jump, the skydiver.
Baumgartner.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and so but one on this description, the impression that I got from Anthony was that he basically said, look, things is going to arrange itself into layers of effectively density. And I said, well, he's in space. He's not in any layer at all. So when he jumps out of that ship, I wouldn't expect him to fly towards the Earth, because I would expect mass to do what mass does best and take the path of least resistance. So if anything, he'd fly away from the Earth. So why is that not what you're observing? And he'd fly away from the Earth. So why is that not what you're observing? And he said, no, that's not how it works. You've misrepresented my position that I was saying. And I was like, okay. So they are a fact of the flat Earth reality, that's essentially. So if that's the case, then the moon is a big problem for you guys, because it's a whacking great big chunk of rock and it isn't going into the right. What's going on there? And then apparently I was presupposing that the moon was a chunk of rock because all they could say about it was that it was something in the sky and they don't know what it was. The issue that I have with flat earthers is whenever you catch them on a point and you point out the we don't know about that, so that's not relevant.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
We don't say it's not relevant. Hang on. We don't say it's not relevant. We say we would be glad to find out.
Okay, so
we don't
what
make
is the moon?
bullshit like you do.
So what is moon then if it's not a whacking great big chunk of rock? Because it certainly looks like one.
It's a light.
It's a light in the sky. That's all you know.
Light, you know.
Just like that bullshit with Felix. Are you willing to? Did you want to talk about that high altitude jump, or did you just want to talk about the pretty bullshit that makes it a pretty ball and everything else? Like you said, you don't want to talk about. So did you want to discuss that Felix jump because it took him a few hours to climb up there? Did it not? Are you going to argue that it took him up to where he jumped from?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you look at the moon, you don't
the
know
Earth should have moved 30 degrees in those 2 hours, shouldn't it?
Well, he was moving up through the atmosphere.
Stop it.
No, wait, no.
Come on. We've talked about this so many times. When you look outside, is the air moving? Is the wind, is the trees moving? The leaves blowing around?
No, they're not.
The equator.
But the Earth is moving 1,000 miles an hour, I thought.
Why does a light have craters and shadows on it when you look at
Why can you see craters on the moon without a telescope?
Like that, there shouldn't be any shadows on it.
Can I ask part?
Good point.
Go ahead.
So the moon is its own light source, right?
Yes.
Okay. How does why does it show? Given, I'll give you the fact that it's its own light. It can, but how does it create?
You're asking me because I was there, right, last week and took pictures.
No, I want to know.
That's why I know.
No, I want to know why part of it's dark.
You know what? If we had the budget, or if they were nice enough to tell us the truth the whole time, you'd know the answer to that question.
I don't know. So that's what you think. So why is part of it dark?
I don't know.
Then why are you saying it is? And why are you saying?
I'm saying to you that it's really a miracle. Everything is tumbling in 3 different directions. Yet the moon goes. Hang on. Yet the moon goes through its phases, bang on, month after month in the same order. Always the same order.
We have an explanation.
Never misses a beat.
What is your explanation?
I don't know. All I know is it's a collection pool. All I know is that the moon is a collection pool for what you guys under the impression of heaven and hell is. Hell is up, the direction of the moon. Just
so
like
people are the bright side and the bad.
But other than that, I don't know.
Can you show me any light source?
I don't know what the fuck it is other than a light in the sky.
Then why believe it? Then why believe?
Believe what? That it's a light in the sky?
Yeah.
I believe it's a light in the sky because that's all I can see and all I know about it.
Well, your teachers explained it to you. Everybody's that it's a reflection of the light of the sun, man. But
there's a problem. There's a problem with the reflection
as an alternative. Well, I mean,
what? Wait, hang on. But did you know that according to your light laws, according to that inverse square law, it should be 5 times brighter? Now, you're going to tell me, hang on. You're going to tell me because I have the moon in my eye, and that's why I get 1 lumen here. But if I go over there, it's not going to be as bright as a welder's torch. But can you tell me where on a welder's torch, pretend that you could shrink yourself as an atom. Where on the welder's torch?
No, he thinks
for it being as bright as a welder's torch. It should be.
He thinks the moon is 100% reflective value rather than a matte, dusty, muted surface that doesn't reflect like a chrome ball.
Gotcha.